challenges of the last 18 hours. Are there some folks that will not be present because they're working the lodging issue?
One person.
Any others that are going to not show so we get an idea? Okay, there's a couple out. All right, so I think we're still missing a fair number. I guess it's somewhere in the 20 realm for some reason. But we'll get rolling. All right.
I thought it was the Air Force, not the Airborne.
I'm in civilian status, so I can't do it. All right, listen up. Welcome. This is your pre-UTA meeting. For those that don't get to do UTA meetings, you don't know what you're missing. For those that do, you're going, thank God I'm not in a pre-UTA meeting. So today is about learning, and it's about experiencing, and it's about fun. And I think Lou will hammer this at some point as well in his portion, but great opportunity that we have this day. We've got a team from Loyola Marymount Business College, or Business School of the college, of the university. That's right in a minute. And do we have any LMU grads in here by chance? All right, we have a couple, and I think Garen is one as well. But he is not here. So we have a few of you are
Awesome.
present, and so we'll blame you for whatever that they do or don't do. But anyway, great opportunity to learn from folks in the industry that have served in the civilian sector and are passing on that wisdom to the next generation. And they are volunteering their time to come out here and meet with us today and to impart some of that wisdom. And it's a broad range of topics, as you guys saw, from leadership to starting a company. I will tell you that we can learn from anybody that we come across. And I think we have a lot to learn from these gentlemen that are here today. And I will tell you that a lot of what they do, a lot of what they teach is along a customer-based orientation. How many of you in your military role have a customer? How many of you don't have a customer in your military role? Who's got the guts to raise your hand on that? All right, and how many of you are a customer? Every single one of them. All right, case in point. How many of you are impacted by the lodging situation right now? For those that don't know what we're talking about, we failed to exercise a contract to get appropriate lodging for this UTA weekend. And we have hundreds of folks that are without lodging. And that came up last night, and we've been scrambling, trying to take care of our members. So that is a customer-based example of a failure. And part of what we try to do is learn from our mistakes and figure out how that we can correct those mistakes, but also how we interact with our other teammates, with our partners, with our teammates, with our customer-based service versus those that we are the customers for. Because we all play a role in this organization that is the 452nd Air Mobility Wing, which is the Air Force Reserve. You know, we have two missions on this base as the 452nd. First and foremost is to provide professional airmen fully ready to go out and do the nation's business. That's our primary mission. Secondary mission is we are the host of this historic base, and we have a responsibility to provide services to our 20-plus tenants that we have out there. We always have to keep that in the back of our mind, because if we service the 452nd well, but we don't service the 163rd Attack Wing or the Department of Homeland Security folks, are we succeeding or failing? I will contend that we're failing, because if our tenants fail, we fail, because our report card is their report card, if you will. So it's incumbent upon us always to keep in mind that we're a service organization providing the support to our tenants. In addition, we're doing our own mission at the same time. So So that's the way I want you to go into this today. You're going to get a broad spectrum of insight from these fine gentlemen that are volunteering their time to come over here. The way we're going to operate is we'll spend the first 50 minutes in here. We'll break, go to the club. At 2 o'clock, we're going to, as you walk out of here, the list that went out, you can grab a copy. We have about 100 copies in the back of the room. You can find your name and find where you're supposed to be. The way these lists are broken, 5 seminars that we've got set up over in the club, and each one with the topic that you're going to be attending in each seminar. So the 2 to 250 is right here, the 3 to 350 here, the 4 to 450 is here. The way the rooms are set up over at the club, the Dedalian room, if you don't know what the Dedalian room is, as you're walking down the hallway heading towards the Back Street Cafe, it's on the left. It's the old historic portion of the club. That's where the starting a business will be. The leadership games portion will be in the forum room. And the forum room is the room right beside the atrium with the round tables. The other 3 seminar sessions will be down in the ballroom area, which is on the east end of the club. Those areas will be segregated into 3 separate independent rooms, and we'll operate out of those. There are signs on the walls over there for each individual session, so you'll know which room you should be in. What I need you to do, though, is on your way out, grab one of those lists so you know where you're supposed to be, and I need you to get in the rooms as quickly as possible so that you can get the most out of this. There's no more than 20 persons in each of the individual seminars, so it's meant to be interactive. It's meant to be cross-flow of information, and we've also tried not to have all the operators in this one, all the maintainers in this one, all the medical, all the support, etc. So it's meant to have an engaging atmosphere, because that's the way you're going to get the most out of this. As I say, you're all customers, which means you all provide a service as well. And you're providing a service to those folks sitting next to you in this room. And that's what we got to keep in mind, is how do we provide the best customer service that we can possibly do. Internal to us, the 452nd, external to our base, external to our other partners out in the system. So I think I've spoken too long already, but with that I would like to introduce you to Lou Jaffe. He is the one that has spearheaded this whole operation when he reached out to us and was like, yes, we're on board. So I will let Lou introduce us.
Awesome. Hi, thank you. To start off with, I want to tell you that our team, we're customers. We're customers of possibly the best product ever invented called freedom. So I want to thank all of you for being a vendor to all of us. So that's the most important thing. So today we have a couple of different goals that I thought I'd share with you. Number one, the hardest thing I have to do right now is stand in front of a bunch of leaders and talk about leadership, because you guys get trained in that all the time. But you guys have so many mentees reporting to you. So hopefully our team can give you a couple of new rounds to put into your clips so that you can help them. It's not just about you, but it's about how you can help the people that are coming up behind you. So we really want to put that together. We really want you to see your peers in a different light. So that's why the general really worked hard on mixing it up when we do the breakout sessions. And I want you to understand, in the breakout sessions, one of the things that's really cool about Loyola Marymount University, we don't have big class sizes. So the students get to interact with us. You guys have that opportunity. This is not, except for the next 40 minutes, this is not a soliloquy. This really is a very interactive session. So I'd start off with something that I start off with all of my students. And by the way, real quick background, I am a recovering CEO. I was a CEO for the vast majority of my life. I semi-retired 2 years ago, and I am blessed to have David Choi, if you would stand up for a moment, who's also going to be doing leadership and management. He's my boss. So as much as you're nervous in front of him, now you know what I feel like. So David not only is a professor at Loyola Marymount University, he sits on multiple boards. So he has real-world experience. We have Mike Wojo in the front. Mike has a doctorate in social capital, which is the academic word for networking. And I'm not talking about Cisco, I'm talking about getting to really know people and build relationships. We have Matt Sand. Matt, if you'd be kind enough to stand up. Matt is also former Air Force, so he knows your language, which God knows I don't. Matt is in the real world, outside of the academic world. He teaches startups, but Matt is a venture capitalist. He funds early stage companies. He's written a book about starting companies. And last but not least, we have Mark Lucas, also Air Force. Mark he's the career development officer at the university, so he works with the MBAs, helping them to find something next. But he's also was at Lexus for a long time, running marketing and introducing new products to the industry. But for you guys, he's going to be talking about financial discipline, about not just investing for yourselves, but a whole host of things. So that's our what we're trying to do today. But up on the front, I have a little logo for you, and it really talks about your smile is your logo. Nobody wants to deal with somebody that's walking around in the dumps, right? Your smile is the first thing people see. And if you want to get people to listen to you and work with you, it's really about your smile, okay? But the most important thing is not who you think you are. It's who do the people on the other side of the transaction believe that you are. So your actual brand is how people perceive you. And to be a phenomenal leader, a leader has no power without followers. So I really wanted to start out with that because that's a lot of what I'm going to talk about. But I thought I'd start off with a magic trick. Just because I always say you have to do something to really grab everybody's attention. So I'd like you to pick a number between 1 and 0. Don't tell any, maybe 1 and 10. Don't tell anybody. Keep it to yourselves. And take that number and multiply it times 9.
Don't
now you
take
should
your
have
shoes off to count either.
Really, you could get that high with toes? That's a unique group. I also noticed, by the way, you guys do transport, and yet center of gravity. Look at the room. Just notice that. But anyway, take the number that you multiply times 9. If you have a 2-digit number, please add the 2 digits till you're back to a 1-digit number. Okay? If you have a 1-digit number, stay exactly where you are. So we're now at a 1-digit number because I want to subtract 5 from that 1-digit number to get to a whole new 1-digit number, because I'm just trying to confuse the daylights out of you. And to really do that, I decided I want you to convert it to its alphabetical equivalent. So if you are at 1, you are A, 2, B, 3, C, 4, D, etc. So now you have a letter. I want you to think of a country in Europe that starts with that letter. Okay? Everybody sort of there? Go to and preferably English. Do I look bilingual? No. English. Go to the next letter in the alphabet. And I would like you to think of a circus animal. Because for the next 4 hours approximately, what we really want to do is give you more practical lessons than you can apply than you will find elephants in Denmark. Now, out of curiosity, thanks to you, does anybody have an emu in Deutschland? I'm just curious. There's always one. There he is. Okay. Of course. Again, now that I've converted into being a professor, I thought I'd share a couple of platitudes. Okay, you gotta set goals. Because if you don't know where you're going, every road gets you there. Those of you that are pilots, you file a flight plan. It's a goal. Now you know 90% of that trip you are not in exact alignment to the runway you're landing, but you know where you're headed. In life, that is so important. You can make course corrections. You can deal for wind. You can deal with as you're burning off fuel, the change in the weight of the aircraft. But you have to have a goal in order to get there. You have to have a target. It's true in life. It's true in business. You can make changes along the way. You can always fix a bad decision. You can never fix an indecision. Lesson number 1. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. But that gets a little complicated because if you pick the wrong thing you're measuring, you will be managing the wrong thing. But if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Which means inspect what you expect. Really straightforward. Because that's a communication tool. You're telling people, this is what I expect. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Beware of half-truths. You have a 50% chance of picking the wrong side. So really listen. But half-truths are the most dangerous thing we deal with because then we make bad decisions based on bad information. So ask that additional question or be open-minded enough to see what the full truth is. And never, ever, ever, ever compromise your integrity. Because without integrity, nobody will buy into anything you have to say. And integrity is incredibly a transparent concept because people instantly know when you have none. And that's the end of the relationship. And last but not least, and I am so grateful to Dr. Choi because I love teaching and I love sharing. If you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. So success comes in many factors, but I thought I'd share 2 slides that I really love. It's all about motivating people. It's getting things done and not blaming others. But success is also when your dreams are bigger than your excuses. An excuse, and there are 2 words in the English language I hate. I hate the word try. As soon as somebody says, I'll try, they've already set me up for, I'm not going to get it done, but I tried. And I hate maybe. And guys, tell me the truth. When you use the word maybe, isn't that, I'm waiting for something better? Maybe is a no waiting to happen. I like perhaps. There's a limited amount of optimism in perhaps. But maybe is just, I tried, I couldn't get it done. So those are 2 words that I always suggest for people. Try not to use them. Because there you go. Now I've given you the opportunity to every once in a while throw it in. Life and business are so interrelated, but all businesses are the same. So I've had the benefit of, I've met some of the physicians, I've talked to people that have multiple different jobs, I've been in video technology the vast majority of my career, but all businesses are the same. Gain and retain customers profitably in order to create value. Doesn't matter what business you're in. Everything else is a small detail, but it's about gaining and retaining customers profitably. Because if you don't do it profitably, you're not in business very long. But how is that different in life? Because in life, it's about gaining and maintaining great relationships. And the only way you have a great relationship is if you create value out of that relationship. So life and business totally cross over. Okay? And everything has an ecosystem. Everything is connected. Sometimes we don't necessarily see those connections, but they're connected. And the hardest thing about an ecosystem, the vast majority of an ecosystem, we can't even see. We just kind of know it's there, which is why I love the euphemism of the iceberg. So it's really understanding we never get to see the whole thing, which is why that wonderful little question, why, is so important. Now, for those that are wojos at my age, we grew up in the concept of there's no such thing as a stupid question. That's not true anymore. In my pocket, I have the answer to every what question ever asked. It's called Siri. She can answer the what questions. But the important questions are not what. What year was the War of 1812 fought? The important questions are why and how. And the whys and hows are always below the surface. The whats are above. They're the easiest questions to get an answer to. And so one of the things that I get to talk a lot about is what I refer to as the 7 C's, so I apologize to the airmen because it sounds like it's a naval thing, but it really isn't. In business, this is the ecosystem straight up. Cash. Number 1, it is the lifeblood of every organization. Customers. To give you a whole new, in your business lives, new definition of customer. A customer is cash waiting to happen. Right? So you need those two things. Culture and coworkers. You need the people you work with. That is so important. Corporate culture never gets the play that it really should. Corporate culture is the difference between success and failure. First four letters in culture, cult. What is the cult you want to create? One of the things that I loved when the first time I came to come out and meet the general, we saw culture the same, and it's about education. It's about being better, and every day being just a little bit better, because you give it over a month's time. If every day is just a little bit better, by the end of the month, you're a lot better. By the end of the year, you are really better. It's culture. It's the coworkers you work with. The only constant is change, with the exception of certain laws of physics, because you guys deal with gravity on a regular basis. Gravity's pretty constant. Everything else changes. You can either embrace change or you can fight change. If you fight change, you deplete your resources, such as cash cooperation and customers. If you embrace change, you can make a huge difference by working with it. Clock. The most perishable asset we have is time. I had a boss early in my career when I first graduated college, and I was so excited. We were making chips, and we actually made the most chips we ever made in one day. I said, "Oh my God, do you see how many chips we made?" And he says, "Why are you so excited?" I said, "Because you see how many chips we made." He goes, "Do it again tomorrow." Well, what if I can't do it tomorrow? And he said, if you could do it today, you can do it tomorrow. Because if you didn't do it tomorrow and you do less chips, you can never make up for those chips you didn't make. Right? So, clock. Cooperation. If you have an ecosystem, everything works together. Cooperation is the most important thing you have. And if you do not create an environment where you have cooperation, they don't create an environment where they have cooperation. And last but not least, communication. Communicate, communicate, communicate. That is the ecosystem of business. And the dirty little secret that nobody ever really talks about in communication, 2 ears, 1 mouth, used proportionately. Okay? We get more from listening than we do from speaking. Will Rogers once said, never miss the opportunity to just shut up. It's true, because it's all out there. I want to talk about the business ecosystem for a second, to what the general had brought up before. If you think about businesses, businesses are created in silo. You have marketing, you have sales, you have operations, right? You have accounts receivable. But customers don't care about all of those silos, because you know what? They cut across them in a level playing field. Because if that person in credit check makes it impossible for that customer to do business, they're never coming back. And how about that person at the other end? That person that does accounts receivable, that calls up on the 31st day and says, where's my check? And they really upset that customer. That customer's going to have options, and they're not coming back. So customers go horizontal through an organization. But we have internal and external customers. An internal customer is, you are a vendor. You're a vendor of information, you're a vendor of services, you're a vendor of a lot of things, but you're also a customer because you need information, you need services. So it goes back and forth across those silos. The harder you make the walls between the silos, the more you waste resources. And there's only so many resources any organization has. So it's tearing down those walls. And going back to the 7 C's, what tears down the walls? Communication. It's that simple. The external customer is the guy that actually pays the bills. So I thought I would take a look at your organization for a second. So thank you, General. This is a perfect example. You have the wing staff. They are vendors to a lot of you, but they're customers to a lot of you. And then you have all the different groups. You have the physicians, you have the pilots, etc. Different groups that need to work interactively, and they don't necessarily even know each other or talk to each other. Not really best way to go. And by the way, not only do you have that, but you divide them up into 19 different squadrons. Each one, of course, is the best, which makes things a little more complicated. Now, I should tell you, I had a twin brother. I understand the concept of equal, and it never goes well. But you got to tear down those walls. And then you have tenants inside and outside the fence that you need stuff from them, they need stuff from you. It's that same thing. So, to quote a famous president, tear down that wall. Because that is the only way things get done. And in your case, you also have that external customer because every once in a while you help the Marines get to where they need to be. Right? And those guys don't talk to anybody. So you have to drive the communication. I knew you'd all agree with that. So with that said, we get into the concept of really leadership and who has the power, the leader or the followers. Because if you make the wrong decision, that answer is deadly. The leader has no power, sorry, General. The leader has the ability to communicate. Now in the military it's a little different, but still, they communicate a mission, they communicate what they want to get accomplished. You know, is interestingly has the most amount of power? The first follower. Because as soon as one person follows, then all of a sudden, momentum takes over. So it's a leader's job to really seduce that first follower to buy into what they have to say. So I was trying to think, how do I communicate leadership in a way you flight guys really would understand? So I decided we'd talk about geese, and I understand Goose was in the Navy, but that's a whole nother subject. But geese are kind of fascinating because geese fly in a wing and they work as a team. And with that team, they fly 71% farther than an individual goose can fly on its own. There's an incredible amount of value in that team. We won't get into the physics of drafting. However, they also change the leader. The first goose is not always the first goose. Somebody takes and gives that person a break. They step up. There's power in that follower of stepping up. And you know what else happens? If a goose gets sick or shot or something bad happens, never leave your wingman. 2 geese will leave to take care and make sure that person, because that's leadership, make sure that goose is taken care of. And the thing that I love the most, they're constantly honking when they fly because they are cheering on the leader. Because that's partially what followers do to make great organizations. Ask anybody that worked for Apple. They never said anything bad about Steve, and he wasn't an awesome guy. And they stand up behind Cook because that's what followers do. They support their leaders and they cheer them on. So getting a little more specific, because if I don't do something academic, I'm going to get yelled at. The pillars of leadership. The pillars of leadership are kind of fascinating because you have command and control, and you have leadership and management. And leadership is about vision. And not only having the vision of what you want to get done, but communicating that vision. Management is the structure. How do you make that vision work? That's management's role. And command is the same kind of thing. It's the process in order to be effective. And control is in order to be efficient. Now, a lot of people get those 2 words confused, effective and efficient. Let's talk about efficient for a second. We made 1,000 chips today. Let's talk about effective. Only 30 of them worked. That's not very effective, even though we made a lot of chips. So understand when you're trying to be efficient, if you are not trying to be effective at the same time, all you did was create rework for tomorrow. Murphy's Law, right? Everybody knows anything can go wrong, will go wrong. The Murphy's Law that I focus on as a leader is number 27 if you had the poster. There's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it twice. That's the difference between effective and efficient. And as the leader, don't focus on who is right. Focus on that it's right. Because if we focus on who's right, we waste a whole lot of time and we are highly ineffective and inefficient. And by the way, for those of you that are writing down, there's a guy, Simon Sinek, who I kind of lifted this quote from. If you go to TED Talks, those of you that like TED Talks, the best TED Talk ever given, and the most viewed TED Talk of all time is Simon Sinek. And watch his TED Talks. He's absolutely amazing. And this is to all of you. Leaders, true leaders, create more leaders. Because that's how organizations succeed, because they have succession and they have people that are all striving to make everybody inside their organizations better. One of my favorite guilty pleasures is House of Cards. How many of you guys watch House of Cards? Yeah, we know it's true, don't we? Just different names. But with that said, I saw a quote the other day, power comes from the people you collect. And that's kind of true. And Dr. Wojo is going to talk about that a little bit later. But I actually would have loved to have modified it, because a collection only has value if you curate it. If you leave your most valuable painting in the basement and don't show it, it's not curated. If you put it in a horrible frame and nobody gets to see it, it's not curated. It's the energy you put into the network, the energy you put into leadership yields that powerful result of the energy that you get out. I don't know, hopefully you guys can read this, but two of the greatest qualities in life are patience and wisdom. Come on, I need to hear a little more laughter to know that you guys actually saw this slide. So I happen to love that slide. But it's interesting, to be a good person and to be a good leader, the list is almost identical. And it's really about being courteous, being wise, being happy, being connected, being a great listener, and always having patience and wisdom. Often we confuse the word boss and leader. Sadly, a boss is a pusher. A leader's a puller. Dramatically different behavior sets. So I thought I'd just share a couple of words you guys can read. You don't need me to read it to you, because I assume if you work for this guy, you are all highly literate. But at the end of the day, a boss gets things done and nobody's having an amazing time around it. And they're doing it for the paycheck. That's a limiting, self-limiting concept. People will take a bullet for a leader. Leadership is about giving people the desire to show up. A dear friend of mine, I don't know if you've ever been to Mastro's, he runs Mastro's. And I was talking to one of his managers, and his manager said the best quote of all time, and the glow on my friend's face was amazing. He said, you know, I get to come to work every day. It takes a real leader to have people feel that way about what it is that they do. And here's a thought for you, okay? People that feel appreciated do more. Is it really that hard as a leader to show the appreciation? And you know what one of the most important ways you can show appreciation is? By sharing ideas and teaching. People that are being taught appreciate that you took the time to share an idea. Appreciation isn't thank you, it's a start. Not enough. Because sadly, thank yous have been devalued because we were all taught, say thank you. But get involved, share an idea, have a discussion around idea, and the people that work for you will be so appreciative that you will see them step their game up by one level. Again, going back to the academics, there's three types of leadership. You have the dictator. By the way, dictatorships are highly efficient organizations. They just have a really bad succession plan. But sometimes you have to tell people what to do. But it's how you tell them what to do. Sometimes it is way better, and most of the time, to have participation. Don't have pride in authorship. It doesn't have to be your idea. It doesn't matter who's right. picking the best idea that makes all of the difference. And sometimes let the group do what they have to do and experience their own personal growth. And a good leader knows when to move back and forth in that arc, because different styles work better in different moments in time. So I thought, communication. If I say to you guys, bring me a rock, you'll bring me a rock. And then I say, yeah, but you know what? I really wanted that rock to be a little more colorful, and all of a sudden the colorful rocks come in. And then I say, you know what? I meant a little more shiny, and then all of a sudden the shiny rocks come in. And then I say, no, make it really valuable. You bring me some crystals. But I knew at the very beginning, I just wanted it in gold. If you want gold, for gosh sakes, tell somebody I want gold. Take the extra time to communicate all the way, because if you don't communicate it, you're going to get 100 really bad answers. And I love it when I see the head shaking yes, because you've all been on that side of the transaction with a pocket full of bad rocks. Take a moment for communication. I got to meet one of you this morning who was my escort to help me out today. And it was really great. She sent me an email, and I sent her an email, and she sent me an email, and I realized, pick up the phone and talk. How many of us have text communications on a regular basis? As far as I'm concerned, text is for 3 communications. Are you available? No, then when? Pretty straight up. Text conversations, there's nothing that really happens in text because there's no context. Because it's how our brain works. Our brain needs to see it. Our brain needs to hear it. Our brain needs to experience it to fully get it. So when you hide behind that phone, all you're doing is setting yourself up for some incredible disappointment. How many of you guys attend meetings? Not just on base, but I'm talking outside the base, right? You end up in meetings and you think, why am I possibly here? And everybody in a meeting thinks they're totally communicating. And I come out of video conferencing. I enabled meetings. So I'm part of the problem as much as part of the solution. But the real question is, do you get the most out of meetings? So I want to talk about meetings for a second. Number one, a meeting is all about preparation. What did you do first? Do you have the right people coming to the meeting? Do they have the right information to make it a productive meeting? I call that preparation. Communication. Is it in a way they can understand? If you send your meeting information out in Spanish and you're dealing with Frenchmen, they're not going to get it. So communicate the way the audience can hear it. It gets back to how are you perceived. And then are the people in the meeting going to get a chance to mix it up a bit and engage with each other and collaborate? Because we are, as much as we hate to admit it, we are animals. We are pack animals. We want to be together. We want to communicate together. We don't just want, except again for now, we don't want a soliloquy. And the most important part of a meeting has nothing to do with the meeting. It has to do with what happens at the meeting. How many of you, tell the truth, again, not on base, but in your other lives, we had this meeting and somebody promised it next Tuesday, and then next Thursday you're saying, where the hell was it? Right? If you have a meeting, there has to be a follow-up list, and somebody has to be held accountable for what they committed to. Because if not, you just pissed away $1,000 because there were a minimum of 6 people in that room for an hour. There goes $1,000. Just burn it if you don't have a follow-up list, because that is the only way you will have an effective meeting. So this, I used this slide last time, but that was my list. That was meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and it was just like insane. And then I took a look. You know, I use Outlook. Those of you, Google has the same thing, Apple has the same thing. There are those little buttons on the top. Yes, no, perhaps. Okay? If you don't know why you're being invited, if you don't know why you're being asked to add value, If you've never been given the information, or to use your word, the briefing before you got to the meeting, perhaps you will attend. The meeting organizer will get the message, especially because you're going to email them, or better yet, pick up the phone and say, why? So that's my little tirade on meetings, because I think they're kind of complicated. Success really is a process. And the process of success takes a lot of things that you got to put together. So again, while you're reading that, I've gone in and fixed some troubled companies in my career. And it's interesting, the first thing I do when I go into the company is say, well, what do you think happened? We are one sale away from fixing it. Dude, if you were going to have that one sale, you would have had that one sale. Okay? If you put one feather on the scale, it doesn't weigh much. You put 1,000,000 feathers on the scale, you weigh a lot. Everything in life is a process. You have to do a lot of little things right, not one amazing thing right. Because it took a lot of things that you did wrong to get into the mess. So it's about, what's that process? It's not about getting things right once, but it's about doing it over and over and over again. And one of the buzzwords in business these days is sustainability. Well, sustainability can't occur if there's not a process, because if there's not a process, it is constantly a do-over. So I'm going to take 1 minute, okay, and I'm going to time you. There are 54 digits on that sheet. Count and get them in order, 1 through 54, starting now, go. Let's see how far you can get. And Mr. Lucas, do not do it, because you know how to do it. Ten seconds. 5. So now we're going to find out all about integrity. How many people got up to 5? 10. 15. Wow, that's pretty impressive. 20. Anybody get all the way to 50? Not a chance. But here's something really interesting about those numbers. I put them in order. If you have a process, even in something that appears so chaotic, you can do it again much better. So now, we're going to do this again. And I want you to know, go to the segments. Go to 1 to 2 to 3, and then look for the number. So when you're the first time through, you're going to find the 3 in the 3 box. Okay? When you're in the second time too, you're going to find the 10 in the 1 box. So everybody ready? And I'm only going to give you 30 seconds. Go. Five seconds. Who exceeded their number by a minimum of 5? Minimum of 10? In half the time, because you put a process around what you were doing. So, again, I've introduced my cohorts. The general has told you how to find out where we're going after this room. So I want to conclude with a couple of thoughts. Number 1, you're not who you think you are. You're who people experience. What is the experience you want to give them? Number 2, a leader gets the most out of everybody by appreciating them, educating them, and giving them a clear vision on where they want to be. And I've tried to make this a little experiential, so I'm going to stop with one last riddle. There's an ancient riddle. 5 frogs sat on a log. 4 decided to jump off. How many frogs remain on the log? Anybody? 5 frogs sat on a log. 4 decided to jump off. How many frogs remain on the log? The answer is 5, because deciding to jump and jumping are rarely related. So I hope as you spend time with my amazing cohorts, who are, by the way, all way smarter than me, they will help you get your frogs off the log. So thank you for letting me pontificate for the last 45 minutes.
So hopefully you see this is a little different. And that's why I'm so excited about it, because normally our military training is all about the military. This is something that you will open your mind for the next 3 hours as you sit and listen to these gentlemen interact. This will apply not only to your military as your leadership role, but it will also apply in your civilian sector jobs as well, perhaps even into your family lives. So think outside of our normal uniform. Think about how this can impact you in everything that you do out there, because you're going to get some great experiences, I do believe. So Lou, thank you.
Thank you.
Much. What we're going to do now, folks, is we're going to break. See, you have the little sheets back there, correct? Okay, let's put half and half on each different side so we can file out and grab the sheet, and that way you know where to go. We're going to break to over in the club. Get in your...
You will need this in your room. And thank you.
Thank you.
How'd I do?
You did great. Awesome. By the way, I sent Matt a text.